A $15,000 Chanel bag doesn't guarantee elegance. In fact, truly sophisticated women rarely flaunt oversized logos or obvious displays of wealth. When Grace Kelly walked into a room, it wasn't her jewelry that captured attention. It was her presence. That je ne sais quoi that even made princes lose their breath. I'm Carol, and I've discovered that true elegance isn't about the price tag on your clothes, but the subtle details that many overlook. Authentic elegance whispers. It doesn't shout. As Jackie Kennedy Onassis demonstrated perfectly, even in the toughest moments, composure and dignity speak louder than any display of wealth. When Blair Waldorf said in Gossip Girl that fashion is the armor to survive the reality of everyday life, she was almost right. True elegance is your secret weapon, not just to survive, but to thrive. Have you ever noticed how some women walk into a room and instantly elevate the atmosphere? That's no coincidence. It's a skill that can be learned, and it can transform your social, professional, and personal life. What do Kate Middleton and Amal Clooney have in common besides high-profile marriages? They master the art of details that whisper class, and that's exactly what we're going to explore today. You may have grown up like me, dreaming of luxury but thinking elegance was only for the rich. I was so wrong. I've been a lawyer, a university professor, and it wasn't until I turned 30 that I realized elegance can be learned, and it can be profitable. If you want to discover how to transform your presence and exude class without saying a word, turn on notifications now. And if you'd like to dive deeper into the art of being elegant while traveling the world, my ebook, Be Elegant When You Travel, Global Etiquette for the Sophisticated Traveler, is available in the first pinned comment. Elegance isn't about the price of your handbag, it's about the value you place on yourself. Leave a like if you're ready to master the subtleties that make all the difference. 1. Elegant people value experiences, not price tags. The woman in front of me at the cafe spilled her tea on a dress I instantly recognized as Valentino. Do you know how she reacted? She laughed, grabbed a napkin, and continued her conversation as if nothing had happened. That was elegance in action. But have you ever noticed how genuinely refined people seem to have a radar for ostentation? Most people find authenticity more attractive than displays of status. That's because our brains are wired to detect artificial behavior. That feeling of something seems off is real. Have you ever felt small when someone talked about their possessions, while others made you feel special no matter what you had? When Audrey Hepburn entered a room, she didn't need to announce the value of her Tiffany jewelry. Her presence said it all. And do you know why? Because truly elegant people have a different relationship with material possessions. At a dinner last week, I observed something revealing. A woman was excitedly talking about her new $150,000 car while everyone smiled politely. Moments later, an older woman casually mentioned a small bookstore she had discovered in Portugal, and suddenly everyone was genuinely engaged. Elegant people have this ability to appreciate stories, not prices. What do you think happens when someone tries to impress them by mentioning how much something costs? Bringing up prices has the opposite effect. It often signals insecurity. I had a friend who spent a fortune on designer bags, but still felt out of place at social events. She learned that elegance can't be bought. It has to be cultivated. What's the difference between someone who wears expensive jewelry to feel important and someone who wears the same jewelry without needing it for validation? When Kate Middleton wears a piece from a fast fashion brand, she looks just as elegant as when she wears a royal tiara. Why? Because she understands that elegance is an attitude, not an acquisition. High net worth individuals prefer not to flaunt their wealth. They value discretion. Like Warren Buffett, who still lives in the same house he bought in 1958. That's why, in Sex and the City, Charlotte York always seemed more elegant than her millionaire dates. She had substance beyond status. True elegance doesn't ask, how much did it cost? But rather, what's the story behind it? And you? When was the last time you were more enchanted by the story behind something than its price? 2. The silent balance. How elegant women cultivate well-being without making it a spectacle. Last week, I came across 2 social media posts. The first, an influencer showing off her grueling workout routine with the caption, "There are no bad days, only weekdays. No excuses." The second, Jane Fonda at 87 simply saying, "I do what I can, when I can, and it has worked for decades." Which one conveyed more elegance to you? Have you ever noticed how truly refined women treat their health as an intimate secret, not a billboard? Women who maintain consistency in their wellness routines over time rarely talk about it publicly. They simply do it. When Audrey Hepburn was asked about her flawless appearance, she responded, "For beautiful lips, speak only words of kindness. For beautiful eyes, look for the good in others." She could have mentioned her daily cycling and yoga sessions, but instead she chose to focus on kindness. What do you think happens when we turn our health into a spectacle? In Breakfast at Tiffany's, Holly Golightly, played by Audrey Hepburn, says, "I don't want to own anything until I find a place where me and things belong together." The same applies to our relationship with our bodies and minds. We're not trying to own the perfect body, but to find harmony. Recently, a friend came to me in desperation, searching for the perfect diet after trying 14 different plans in a year. She was exhausted but kept posting #FitLife daily. When we shifted to a more discreet and personalized approach, not only did her health improve, her presence did too. What's the difference between someone who wears their health like a medal and someone who treats it like a private garden? Most people who sustain lifestyle changes for more than 5 years rarely talk about it when first meeting someone. That's because they understand that sustainable results speak for themselves. Princess Diana frequently practiced ballet. However, when asked about her fitness routine in interviews, she spoke about balance and purpose, not reps and sets. The people most admired for their grounded presence practice what is often called invisible discipline, consistency without the need for external validation. The most elegant women I know treat their health the same way they treat fine lingerie, something personal, of exceptional quality, but not meant to be flaunted at the next party. 3. Genuine appreciation. How elegant women celebrate art without exclusivity. At a cocktail party last week, a woman commented on a painting on the wall. Another guest immediately interrupted, "That? It's a Paul Klee. You probably don't know him. He uses a very advanced technique that few people understand." The awkward silence that followed was almost tangible. But have you ever noticed how truly elegant people speak about art differently? Have you ever seen someone use knowledge as a wall, while others use it as a bridge? People often feel intimidated by discussions about art, yet they express genuine interest when it's presented in a welcoming way. That's because our brains are wired to respond to sincerity. What do you think reveals more about a person? Their memorization of facts or their emotional connection to art? Someone once purchased an expensive piece of art with the sole intention of impressing visitors. They memorized facts about the artist, the era, and the technique, yet no one seemed to genuinely connect with the piece. However, when they chose a work that truly moved them, even by an unknown artist, conversations became more natural and engaging. What's the difference between someone who uses art as a status symbol and someone who truly connects with it? People often come across as pretentious when they use technical jargon unnecessarily, but most are drawn to conversations where there is a genuine passion for the subject. Kate Middleton, who studied art history, rarely flaunts her technical knowledge. Instead, she often asks artists about their inspirations and creative processes, fostering an exchange rather than a lecture. What about you? Have you ever felt excluded from an art conversation or warmly included? True elegance in discussing art isn't about showing how much you know. It's about opening doors for others to discover it for themselves. As Coco Chanel once said, "Elegance is not about being noticed, it's about being remembered." 4. The discreet passport. How elegant women travel without turning memories into trophies. Last week, while browsing a gossip site, I came across something revealing. A famous actress, in an interview about her travels, never once mentioned the name of a luxury hotel or the class she flew in. Instead, she shared the experience of having tea with Syrian refugees and the lessons she learned about resilience. Did you notice how true elegance has its own internal GPS? Have you ever noticed how some women return from trips with photos of hotel lobbies, while others come back with stories too meaningful for hashtags? Travelers who extensively post about luxury during vacations report lower levels of genuine satisfaction with their experience. That's because our brains struggle to balance documenting moments and fully living them. In Under the Tuscan Sun, Diane Lane doesn't buy a villa to flaunt status. She seeks authenticity and connection. The film continues to resonate because it highlights the difference between tourists and travelers. When was the last time you returned from a trip richer in experiences than in photos? A friend of mine spent a fortune at a resort, documenting every luxurious corner for social media. But when I asked her to share her most cherished memory, she hesitated. Honestly, it was when I got lost in the city and a local family invited me to dinner. That moment never made it to Instagram. What separates a woman who uses travel as a badge of honor from one who carries her experiences like hidden gems? The most fulfilled travelers prioritize cultural immersion over luxury amenities, just like Princess Diana, who would step away from royal protocol to sit with children in orphanages or visit local markets. And you? Have you ever experienced the freedom of traveling without needing to prove anything to anyone? Women over 40 are the ones who value authenticity in travel the most, seeking meaningful cultural experiences over extravagant accommodations. True elegance in travel isn't about listing hotel addresses in your bio. It's about the stories you bring back. As Audrey Hepburn once said, "Paris is always a good idea," and she wasn't talking about the likes she would get. 5. Elevated laughter. How elegant women use humor without diminishing their grace. Elegant humor is like a fine fragrance, noticeable enough to be appreciated, subtle enough not to overpower. Have you ever noticed how some laughter makes you feel included, while others make you feel left out of the joke? People consider a sense of humor more attractive than physical appearance in long-term relationships. But here's the fascinating part. Very few appreciate humor that comes at someone else's expense. What separates a woman who uses humor as a shield from one who uses it as a bridge? Self-deprecating humor is often linked to insecurity, while situational humor demonstrates emotional intelligence and confidence. As Michelle Obama said, "When they go low, we go high," even in jokes. The women most admired in social settings are those who can turn awkward moments into funny stories, without humiliating anyone in the process. Elegant women use humor to ease tension, not to escalate it. That's why they are remembered not just for their wit, but for the warmth they bring to a room. 6. The silent signature. How elegant women exude class without displaying wealth. As the Duchess of Windsor once said, "You can never be too rich or too thin." She didn't need to add, "or too obvious." Have you ever noticed how true class feels like a melody played on invisible keys? Have you ever wondered why we notice the presence of certain women even before we notice what they're wearing? Luxury consumers are gradually shifting away from items with loud logos in favor of more understated pieces. That's because our brains are wired to detect authenticity, the feeling that something is real without needing to announce itself. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, considered one of the greatest examples of American elegance, rarely wore pieces with visible branding. Her wardrobe was built on impeccably tailored, neutral-colored garments. In Breakfast at Tiffany's, Holly Golightly, Audrey Hepburn, says, "It's better to wear a little black dress than to wear nothing at all." But what she doesn't mention is that her little black dress was perfectly tailored to her body, creating a silhouette that looked as if it had been drawn by angels. What reveals more about a person? The logo on her handbag or the way she treats the waiter? What separates a woman who needs you to know how much she spent from one who simply knows the value of what she has? Kate Middleton frequently repeats outfits at public events, something unthinkable for most celebrities. When was the last time you noticed someone not for their designer labels, but for their presence? True class isn't about owning expensive things, but about valuing meaningful ones. As Coco Chanel once said, "Luxury must be comfortable, otherwise it is not luxury." And the greatest comfort of all is walking into any room knowing that your worth isn't tied to the price tag on your clothes. 7. The distinctive memory. Why elegant women turn you into a name and surname. Have you ever noticed how certain women seem to build little empires of goodwill wherever they go? Have you ever wondered why some people are always greeted with a genuine smile, while others receive only basic courtesy? Hearing our own name activates brain regions linked to identity and belonging. In fact, most people report feeling greater satisfaction in interactions where their name is used correctly. That's because, neurologically, our name is the most important sound in the world to us. In Steel Magnolias, Truvy Jones, Dolly Parton, says, "I don't trust anyone who does their own hair. It's unnatural." But what the film doesn't explain is how Truvy built a thriving business in a small town, not just by remembering clients' names, but their birthdays, concerns, and joys. When was the last time you truly felt seen by someone? What's the difference between someone who uses names as a networking tool and someone who uses them as a genuine form of connection. Executives who consistently remember employees' names and personal details across all levels are more likely to be described as inspiring leaders in performance evaluations. People who regularly use names in conversation are perceived as more charismatic and trustworthy than those who don't. True elegance isn't about being recognized, it's about recognizing others. As Maya Angelou once said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." 8. The living library. How elegant women cultivate knowledge without turning it into a weapon. I was at a dinner party when someone mentioned Proust. One woman immediately corrected the pronunciation with an, "It's Proust, dear, not Pro-Oost." The awkward silence that followed was almost tangible. Moments later, another guest casually said, "Speaking of Proust, I've always been fascinated by how he captures involuntary memory through sensations. Just yesterday, the smell of a certain tea transported me back to my grandmother's house. Have you ever had that experience? Did you notice the subtle but profound difference between these two approaches? Have you ever noticed how some women use knowledge as a bridge while others use it as a wall? In social settings, people who share knowledge in an inclusive way are perceived as more intelligent than those who do so in a corrective manner. That's because our brains associate emotional intelligence with cognitive intelligence. Charlotte from Sex and the City embodies this quality perfectly. Despite her privileged education, she never corrects her friends or makes them feel inferior. Instead, she shares information when it naturally fits the conversation, always as an addition, never as a correction. In The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda Priestly, Meryl Streep, humiliates Andy for not knowing the history of cerulean blue. But truly, elegant women often do the opposite. They make knowledge accessible rather than exclusive. When was the last time you learned something new without feeling diminished in the process? A university professor was frustrated because her attempts to spark engaging conversations at social events often fell flat. Upon analyzing her speech patterns, she realized she frequently started sentences with "actually" or "technically speaking." Instead of building connection, she was unintentionally correcting people, which created distance. Her vast knowledge, rather than drawing people in, was becoming a barrier to meaningful interactions. What's the difference between someone who uses knowledge as a trophy and someone who shares it as a gift? People who practice what researchers call intellectual humility, acknowledging the limits of their own knowledge, are seen as 43% more trustworthy and 51% more likable in social interactions. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, fluent in multiple languages and deeply knowledgeable in art and history, rarely flaunted her education. When she did, it was to elevate the conversation, not to dominate it. Michelle Obama, a graduate of Princeton and Harvard, is a master at communicating complex ideas without alienating her audience. In her book Becoming, she writes, "Your title doesn't make you superior to anyone. Your title is your responsibility." Women considered culturally refined tend to ask more questions in conversations and interrupt less than the average person. True intellectual elegance isn't about knowing more. It's about creating more connections. As Dorothy Parker once said, "The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity." The most refined women never lose that genuine curiosity about the world and the people around them. 9. The serene anchor. How elegant women maintain composure when the world is on fire. Have you ever noticed how some women seem to exist in a bubble of calm, even when everything is falling apart? Have you ever wondered why certain people never seem to lose their dignity no matter the size of the disaster? People with high emotional control are perceived as more authoritative and competent in crisis situations. That's because our brains are wired to follow those who remain calm when everyone else is panicking. It's an ancestral survival instinct. Jackie Kennedy, after her husband's assassination, refused to change out of her blood-stained suit. "I want them to see what they did to Jack," she said calmly. Even in the depths of tragedy, she found a powerful and controlled way to respond, without shouting, just with unwavering determination. A professional once had a habit of reacting explosively when things didn't go as planned. She believed that showing frustration was a way to express passion. However, when she adopted what we call the low-temperature response, she noticed that her teams solved problems more efficiently, and her opinions started carrying more weight. What's the difference between someone who suppresses emotions and someone who manages them with grace? Executives who maintain composure during crises are more likely to be promoted to leadership positions. And you? Have you ever noticed how you react when your plans fall apart? People consider the ability to stay calm under pressure one of the most admirable traits in leaders and public figures. True emotional elegance isn't about never feeling anger, frustration, or fear. It's about managing those emotions with grace and purpose. As Audrey Hepburn once said, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible." And maybe that's the secret. Elegant women know that chaos is inevitable, so they choose to be the calm at the center of the storm. Not because they need to impress anyone, but because they've discovered it's simply a better way to live. Now you know the secrets that whisper class without needing to shout. These 9 qualities aren't just about appearance. They're about cultivating a presence that lingers in people's memories long after you've left the room. How have you applied these qualities in your own life? Did you notice how all these traits share a common thread? Authentic elegance always comes from the inside out, never the other way around. Women with true class value substance over status, connection over display. But here's what many don't realize. There's a crucial difference between having class and merely appearing refined. One is an armor that protects you in any social setting. The other is just a disguise that crumbles under pressure. Want to master this subtle yet powerful difference? My video, Learn the Differences Between Being Chic and Sophisticated, reveals exactly why some women exude natural authority while others seem to be trying too hard. This knowledge transformed my own elegance journey, and it can transform yours too. What did you discover about yourself today? Maybe you realized you already embody many of these qualities, valuing experiences over price tags, maintaining composure under pressure, or sharing knowledge without arrogance. Or perhaps you identified areas for growth, learning to appreciate art without pretense, traveling with purpose rather than for show, or cultivating that elegant humor that elevates any situation. What surprised you most about these elegance tips? Elegance isn't just an aesthetic quality. It's a strategic tool. Women who master these traits open doors that remain closed to others, building deeper relationships and more meaningful opportunities. If you want to master this subtle art that so many underestimate, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Elegance isn't just timeless, it's profitable. Share in the comments. Class speaks, money whispers. If these tips resonated with you, check the first pinned comment for links to elegant, curated products that will complement your transformation journey. I've personally selected each one, and I am an affiliate. True Elegance whispers, "Darling, are you ready to make the world stop and listen?"